hypnotherapist
Which
who
hypnotherapist?
came on.
Last week.
Ashwini. You
Ashwini.
remember couple of months back she came on?
Okay. What, she hypnotizes people? You said she's a hypnotherapist. What does she do? Hypnotize people?
No, not hypnotize.
What does she do?
No. She does not hypnotize. She manages and help people to manage themselves.
Okay.
And she also studying trauma right now. So she would be discussing what is trauma, how does trauma affect people, so on and so forth.
When is she, so she's talking today?
Yes, now.
I don't see her.
I'm going to add her now.
Ah, so you two are talking about trauma.
Yeah, me too.
Right then, so
Me
what?
and her.
Okay, so what's going to happen then? You two going to talk for the first hour. Is that all right? Let you two get to talk. And then I may come in on the second half. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
But if I break down in between, you just cover up, yeah? Because I'm...
You're not going to break down because you know that I'm going to come in anyway.
Ashwini?
Yeah.
I'm here.
Yeah, you're not gonna break down because I'm gonna come in and help you anyway. So you'll be all right.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
But you have to have the first hour to yourself, so you women can do what you women do. Yeah. You know what I mean? Women do things when they're together. So I'll let you women do what you do, and then in the second half I'll come in. Trauma. Have you got all your questions ready?
Yes.
You got lots and lots of questions.
Yes, I do. We are going through the whole process.
Wow, you come prepared, innit? You're ready
No.
for them. You're ready for them. That's what I like to hear. All right, then. Well,
You're just preparing now.
Oh. Okay. All right, then. So when she's ready, she can come in,
She's
innit?
ready. Ashwini, are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Oh, you've been there all the time listening.
She just joined in.
Yeah, I just joined in.
Okay, all right, then. Hi, how are you?
I'm doing fine, thank you. How about you?
Oh, how about me? Let me have a look. Yeah,
Turn
I'm going to look at how fine I am. I'm okay.
Yeah, you're okay. You have no choice to not to be okay, do you?
Yeah, you have to be okay, man. When people depend on you in this world, you have to be okay. And people depend on all of us. There's always someone depending on us. There's always
I'm
somebody.
looking forward to you. Like,
yeah.
Somebody told me when everything was going on in my life that I've always heard that you are strong, but today I saw you, how strong you are. And I said, what?
Yeah. You'd be surprised. You'd be very surprised the amount of people that depend on you, but they don't tell you.
Yeah.
They don't tell you. You know what I mean? But they do. They do.
Yeah.
And sometimes when the person that you depend on get weak, everybody else gets weak. But because they want to keep up with the person who they're depending on, oh, I can't do this because Purvi's there. I got to be up because Purvi's there. Then they strengthen themselves because Purvi's there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So a lot of people.
Lot of things on Purvi, isn't it?
Yeah, but that's how life is. A lot of people depend on you, and you don't even realize it. We all depend on each other.
Yeah, that's true.
You know
That's
what I mean?
very, very true. And true connection or true friendship, or we can say true relationship, is that how you encourage each other rather than pull people down in the tough time.
I hear that. I could still see the top of your head though. Your camera moves or something. Oh, haven't you got a camera stand?
No, I don't have a camera stand.
Oh, I'll buy you one for Christmas.
Don't worry. Okay, I would accept that.
All right then.
I would absolutely accept that.
All right then. Cool. Go on then. Continue then.
Are we live?
What's her name? Ami.
No, it's Ashwini.
What is her name?
Ashwini. Ashwini.
Ashwini.
Yeah.
Okay, Ashwini, how are you?
I'm doing fine.
Right, I'm not going to be too much in the show. I'm just going to introduce you to everyone, and we'll take it from there. So, Ashwini, welcome to Bless Radio, Unify platform.
Thank you.
Right, so tell us what you do.
So basically, I'm a trauma-informed consultant, and I specialize in 4 modalities like hypnotherapy, and EMDR, and CPT. So generally, I just look into the trauma clients. Yeah.
You mean
Ashwini, can you start with what is trauma?
So basically, trauma, it's like a psychological brain injury over a period of time. It affects your neuroscience as much as it would if you would actually have had, physical injury. So, but, the changes happen over a period of time and you don't really realize it till you start having the symptoms of it. And because you don't know these symptoms are because of the trauma, you feel that they could be something that you can just get by or something that just overpowers you emotionally and physically and psychologically. So so it is important that we understand the meaning of trauma, because without understanding the symptoms we cannot actually legitimize the treatment. So again, having like a psychological education as a part of a therapy is very important for me to start off with any clients. So make them understand exactly what is trauma, what are the symptoms of the trauma, what type of traumas are there. So for them, it becomes like, okay, you know what, actually I am having all these symptoms and I'm just not imagining it, so just to make it real as possible for them.
That's very... Okay, but I never knew that trauma could affect you so much and so deeply, Or like our mind or our brain working can be injured through the experience what we get in life. I never knew. I'd never got that understanding that our brain can also get injured through the experience what we get in the life.
Yeah,
That's very interesting.
It is. It's like, it's a response to life-altering experiences. It could be anything in your childhood. If you've had like a childhood kind of abuse or any kind of a thing, it could be war for the veterans, could be natural disaster to people, probably in deluge or tsunami and stuff like that. So it completely changes the human beings in the form of symptoms. It just changes their personality altogether over a period of the time, and it becomes very difficult to cope with it on a daily basis if you do not know that you have the symptoms right now.
So Ashwini, can I ask you, what are the symptoms for the trauma?
So basically, the symptoms of the trauma could be divided into 2 parts depending on the type of trauma. So if probably, if we are talking about a single incident, then we would say the PTSD symptoms are on 4 clusters. If we're talking about type 2 trauma, which is a multi-incident type of trauma, then it could be 7 symptoms altogether. So to start off with, if I really to start off very gradually, then I would start off with, let's say, even like a simple incident like a car accident and all, and if you develop a symptom over a PTSD symptom over it, it could be a type 1 trauma. That's what we say usually. So again, it is on assessment. I decide like what type of a trauma you have and the PTSD symptoms that we need to go for.
Okay, so for the common people to understand, what is PTSD?
So it's post-traumatic stress disorder. Okay. And so we have like a diagnostic manual and international classification of diseases and all. So in that, they have kind of categorized PTSD symptoms for related to the trauma. So they have kind of put it into the 4 type. If we start off with only type 1 type of a trauma, so let's say it's a single incident. If we talk about something like I have seen some kind of a incident right in front of me, and it has affected me very badly. If within 1 month, if I just kind of get over it, then I wouldn't develop any kind of PTSD symptom. But if I am still thinking about it and still having flashes or still kind of, trying to avoid the places and all, so I would develop, like, let's say, four symptoms. We call them intrusion, avoidance, negative, alteration of mood, or behavioral pattern would change. So to again go more in detail, if I have to talk about intrusion, so let's say I might just actually see the incident again and again in front of me. Even though it's not happening, I would just see it again and again. Or else my dreams would be completely filled with that kind of, images. So, yeah, that would be first intrusion. Or if we're talking about avoidance, then I would kind of avoid the places and people that would remind me. I would, then it would be if in case I kind of if in case I see some kind of if my behavior changes, then I wouldn't know actually, because until somebody assesses me for that I'm actually going through PTSD symptom, I wouldn't know. But I would be angry for no reason. I can get provoked for no reason, or else I would probably just feel angry being one of it, and physically reacting and snapping at others for no reason. So for me, I would feel, why am I so angry? Why am I getting so upset? Why am I so fearful? Why am I seeing flashes in front of me? Why do I feel it's all happening again and again? So basically, when the trauma happens, yeah, your brain doesn't actually assess it, or it doesn't really understand, because when the trauma happens, your cognitive side is offline. Like, your rational side completely gets offline, and what happens is only your emotional side that hijacks. So now, when you can't understand what's happening, so if all of a sudden something has happened to you, you'll realize that you can't even talk. You're stuttering, or you're just numb. You're frozen altogether. Something really is happening right in front of you. If you imagine, you just completely go offline. You can't even talk. You just become like just stay there. So at that time, because when the brain is not understanding what's happening, it doesn't even take it as a good memory. It kind of puts it in your brain as if something dangerous has happened, and it needs to be processed. But because the processing has not happened during the moment of trauma, the brain still holds that particular trauma incident as if it's still happening. So now you go on and get on with the day, but your brain hasn't gotten and moved on. It is still in the trauma. So now, if your brain has that trauma right in front, it's there inside.
Can I just make it, like, can I understand it more properly? You mean to say that brain is stuck into that situation, that moment?
Yes, it is stuck in that situation. So if anything, in a normal day, whatever happens, your brain is going to process it while you're sleeping, right? Because all incidents you can't remember. So brain only processes those events and saves it up in its, memory bank, what it wants to save, and prunes it off while sleeping. But when the incident is happening, which is a traumatic incident, it doesn't get processed in sleep at all. It goes into a place which we call as a short-term memory. And in that memory, because it is short-term and it is live, it will always be looking out for triggers around it. So it will always think, the trauma is still going on. The trauma is still going on. Anything or reminder outside, reminding your brain that this is a trigger which reminds me of something. So let's say if I've had an accident and I kind of go onto the same road, my body would react as if the same thing is happening right now to me. So you are not basically moving on. And then so sustaining the trauma in your head for longer period gives the PTSD symptoms, then the PTSD symptoms start developing over a period of time. And that's why we say that intrusion, flashes, all of a sudden the incident just coming in front of you, you remembering the incident again and again. Or, if you're snapping, angry, you get panic attack all of a sudden for no reason and all, because you think the incident is still happening. You don't know that the incident, you're thinking like that, but your brain is actually kind of doing its own job, because it needs to process everything. It needs to put it in safe place, which doesn't happen in case of trauma.
Okay. That's very, very good. Interesting to know. So these are the symptoms for trauma. These are the type 1 trauma symptoms.
These are just type 1 trauma symptoms. Type 2 trauma would be if in case you had a multi-incident kind of a traumatic. So let's say you had in a relationship, you've been in a relationship, let's say for 20, 30 years, and you've gone through the, the whatever kind of abuse you've been through in that relationship, or else even as a child. Mostly we say type 2 trauma happens when somebody has gone through a childhood trauma and then some trauma in, whatever the adulthood. So this kind of a trauma, because it also has happened in the childhood, the child while he or she is developing, doesn't have any it doesn't have any cognitive skills yet.
Okay.
So they kind of store it as it is. So then so we have like a borderline, personality disorders. Those kind of disorders are already taking root in the head. So we call it as a comorbidity. So something extra other than, the PTSD, which is, so now they have PTSD symptoms because of the trauma, and they've also developed, kind of a comorbidity. It could be anything, it could be ADHD as well, if it's a childhood, if you're talking about. So then this kind of a trauma becomes type 2 trauma. Not necessarily every type 2 trauma would have some kind of a comorbidity, but in case if they do have type 2, other than the 4 symptom clusters that we spoke about in type 1, additionally 3 ones are the fact that they'll have complete negative perception of life and people and, the world. And then they'll be always in 2 places at the same time. They would be very emotionally dysregulated. They will be like over the top at one time, and they'll go low at one time in a day or something like that. And then their social development has completely they're socially not developed as well. So is social anxiety, not being able to talk to people and all. So this kind of thing, 3 symptoms as well as they develop for the type 2 traumas. That is, yeah.
Okay. So we have only 2 types of trauma, type 1 and type 2.
Yeah. At this point, type 1 could be called as single incident, and type 2 is usually called as a complex trauma.
Okay. So I was just surprised when you said that trauma is diagnosed as a disease.
Actually, it took a lot of time to really get it diagnosed as a disease in the diagnostic manual. Otherwise, it was just taken as an anxiety, stress disorder, or something like that. But now they are now in DSM-5, they have made PTSD as a proper this. And trauma it's basically it's a I wouldn't call it a disease as a mental disease, but it is something that it will have its own symptoms, and you will have to look into it to get over it, kind of a thing. Yeah, more disorder than disease.
Okay, that's interesting to know. Okay, before we go any further, I need to say, people, if you have any questions for Ashwini, can you please call on 079 444 31366, please. So the studio number is 079 444 31366. And thank you for joining in today. You are listening to Blessed Radio on Unity 5 platform, and I'm your host, Purvi Basani. Sorry I've come back after a long time because I had to deal with my own trauma, which I was suffering. I had to go through because I lost my dad due to COVID. And the hard thing was that because of the COVID, I could not even go and pay my respect, go back home in India. So that was the hardest part. And we all have to say, me and my sister both had to say goodbye on Zoom to Daddy. And it was very, very, very tough. So now I've dealt with it. I'm now coming back and getting into my routine again. So thank you for being patient with me. And once again, the studio number is 079 444 31366. Please call in and give some questions to Ashwini. She is here to help you us. And help us and answer all your questions. So, Ashwini, back to you again.
Hi.
Hi, back to you again. Sorry. So
Yeah.
where were we? We started with, so we have covered what is trauma, what type of traumas it is, what types of traumas they are, and the signs what people can see when they are suffering trauma. Okay?
Okay.
And now, so what do they do if they identify, if like I am a common person, if I identify I have a trauma,
Yeah.
I'm going through the symptoms what we have described.
Yeah.
What is this next step the person should do?
So basically, assessment is very important. How much have you been affected by the trauma? Like when the PTSD symptom do catch up with you, you have you will find that there is a period of a time that you will have more of a depression or more of anxiety. So you would, first thing probably you would go to the GP, to understand why you're feeling anxious or why you're getting panic attacks all of a sudden, or why you're feeling so like hopeless, just everything is just like coming to the end kind of a feeling. So usually they do assessment. They have their primary, because DSM-5 is again kind of a diagnostic manual for even doctors. They would do assessment whether you're having any kind of depression or anxiety and everything. Once they do assessment, they will direct you to a therapist. So then the therapist would also do a complete assessment where exactly what kind of symptoms are you literally facing right now, what kind of treatment would be available for you, what should we go for, because again, if it's a type 1, it could be, we can do EMDR with it, so, or if it's a type 2. So again, it basically, the assessment is very, very important. The GP needs to do it thoroughly. Then only you would be directed. And otherwise, if you do feel that you have a depression or you have anxiety, then of course therapist, you have to just reach out to the therapist, because they will do assessment, they will help you out. And instead of going for medication, this is like a safer kind of a thing, because here we are actually trying to process the trauma, trying to understand, make sense of the trauma, because sometimes when the trauma happens, we are not even ready to accept that it actually happened to us. We're in avoidance, we are in denial at that time. So when you're in avoidance, again, the PTSD symptoms are getting aggravated more, or else we are completely flooded with emotions, and we are not able to take that. So I think at that point of a time, reaching out to a therapist, any type of therapist, because there are many modalities available right now for PTSD, is the first thing you should do. You should reach out to a therapist whenever. But only thing is that when you do go through a trauma, it takes a lot of time to understand that the PTSD symptoms have caught on with you.
Okay, it takes longer time to identify that the PTSD symptoms, it does take a longer time to identify that PTSD symptoms have taken over you.
Yeah, it does take time. It takes usually a month or... Yeah.
It's not like it's like a day journey, a day thing, wherein you realize that the PTSD symptoms have taken over you.
No, it doesn't.
It gradually develops through the time. Yes. If it is not dealt with. That is what you're trying to say.
Yeah. It does. It does. It does. It can be like, it could be intrusive thoughts. All of a sudden, you'll just start getting, over. So let's say if incident has happened to me today, I'll not be processing it. I'll just keep it because I'm still in shock right now. So that that memory is not getting processed any which ways, but slowly it will start becoming alive, and it will start, you'll start getting fragmented nightmares. Your flashbacks will play out in 2 or 3 weeks. Then after that, you'll start feeling, you'll even end up, you can have OCD all of a sudden developed, or addictions. You'll start, getting addicted to few things. So maladaptive behaviors also start creeping in. Reaching out for food or reaching out for something that pleases you, and does it, feel upset or something like that. So, these are the little things that just gets, accumulated, and then it becomes like a whole baggage of trauma.
Okay, so if people wants to contact you, how can they reach out to you?
I have a website, and they can always connect me through the website. And but my website is all about hypnotherapy, and currently I'm also doing trauma. I'm trauma informed, so I think assessment for me would be important. So even if they reach out and they see my website is on hypnotherapy, I think I'll be doing assessments first. I wouldn't really go for hypnotherapy if I looking
I
at
just wanted to inform the listeners that Ashwini is a qualified RTT therapist.
yeah.
So she has been qualified as a hypnotherapist. Okay. And now, to add on to that, she's also studying trauma. So she's almost at the end of her course of doing trauma, to study trauma. So the whole idea was, when she did RTT, the hypnotherapist, when she became a hypnotherapist, she realized that, hypnotherapist can be only dealt for one thing at a time and for small issues. Whereas if she goes and studies trauma, she can process the memories which is giving the trauma, which would then help the person to live a normal life.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah. So hypnotherapy is like if I have to take one issue, I can kind of look into it. But it would be like procrastination, or it could be general stuff like fertility and weight loss and everything. But again, every issue, it has got some underlining traumatic incident. So even when though I do hypnotherapy, there is a trauma somewhere in childhood which is given, let's say, only one symptom, that you kind of come to a point that food becomes something that you want to fill in, kind of a thing. So that becomes easy for me to kind of nail it down, because there's no abuse there, or there is no some kind of domestic violence there that which needs to be processed and all. So the PTSD symptoms haven't developed as such. There is just one maladaptive behavior. So it becomes easy in a session or 3 sessions in hypnotherapy to look into even anxiety, even a single incident if it's happened in school and you've developed anxiety because of you can't speak in school, or somebody's made fun of you in school, and then you kind of have now developed like public skills, you can't speak in public. So then that issue can be solved easily in hypnotherapy. But if in case it's a we call it like ACE, like acute adverse childhood experiences, then no, then it would go into more on trauma. So it takes it depends how much the assessment itself. Sometimes it is 3 months, 6 months, a year or so. Then it becomes a little severe processing.
So my reason to pick up this was to inform the listeners that she has a website which is ready for hypnotherapy, but does not mean that she will only cover the hypnotherapy part. She can also look into trauma, because now she's almost completed her trauma study. So she can also look into a trauma and help people to overcome that trauma. So she will be further developing her website to add on trauma to it also.
Yeah.
Okay, can you tell people what's your website?
www.ashwiniptherapy.co.uk.
Okay, and they can contact you through there?
Yeah.
Can they contact you through your Instagram?
Yes, yes, that still needs to be developed. Doesn't have much, but yes, they can.
And what's your Instagram platform called?
Ashwini P Therapy.
Ashwini P Therapy.
Yeah.
And do you have any contact number where people can contact you about this or speak to you about it?
Yeah, so my contact number is 07375 455 394.
That's very good, Ashwini. So people, don't hesitate. If you think that you have a trauma, please do call Ashwini in, and Ashwini can help you out. Okay, let's continue with our trauma. So once we have identified that we have got trauma, we go to our GP, and GP would take further diagnostic.
Yeah,
But that would take a long time to process
exactly.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what is the other route? Can we go into private, like consultants like you?
Yes, I like that would be the I'm going to say yes, it depends. That would be like private therapy is available. There are many clinical psychologists, and there are EMDR therapists, and there is something called brain spotting, which is coming new now, and there are CPT. So because I do two type of because I specialize in type 1 and type 2, so I do EMDR, and I do CPT, that is cognitive processing therapy. For type 1 trauma is EMDR, and type 2 it is CPT. So again, in type 2, I do kind of something called a stare, wherein I teach people about how to regulate the emotions, because when it is multi-incident, your emotions you're very completely flooded with emotions. And when you don't recognize your emotions or identify your emotions, it becomes very difficult, because you're giving, sometimes you get wrong cue from people, and whether it's safe or not safe, because we're always in that mode wherein we could be angry all the time. And so if somebody's trying to reach out to you, even in an amicable way, we would take it as a wrong cue. So then in case of multi-incident trauma, type 2 trauma, I teach everything. I tell them how to identify that, what kind of emotions are we going through right now. So it's a lot of teaching in type 2. So it becomes more that they have all the tools in their hands. So even if they are not coming to me, they have all the worksheets and exercises that they need to do to overcome even the current stressors. So yeah, they become their own therapist. That's what I do. I teach them to be their own therapist.
Oh, that's very, 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 very interesting.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting. So they can approach you directly. They don't have to necessarily go through GP. If they want to overpass GP and just come directly to you, they can come directly to you.
Yeah, they can come directly to me, and and I also I see what are the or how the person is, what is the affordability and everything. So for me, the assessment is very, very important, and because there are times when you are in so much of trauma that it becomes difficult even to process it and to even go through a therapy. So to start off, to make them actually feel confident about why should we go for therapy, and how important it is, and how that the fact that when you come to the end of line, you think there is nothing available for you. But then if somebody teaches you and says, no, there are many things we can do and we can overcome it. So basically creating that rapport with them to start off with, not even from the therapy point of view, to make them feel that, okay, they are in a safe hand, and then we are going to do this together, and not that I'm the one who's going to fix you. It's going to be like, let's do it together kind of a thing. So that is what I like about the studies that I'm doing. It's very compassionate, and it is more towards actually working with the client rather than, directing him or her.
Yes, I know very well because I've taken therapy with you for issues I had. And you have really, really empowered me to, deal with that trauma and overcome it.
Thank you so much. Actually, I believe, I mean to say therapists become therapists only because they learn from their own clients. That's they study through their clients. That so it is both ways actually. Both of us benefit from each other immensely.
Yes, but the thing you are doing is really, really helping out people. And I'm the testimony here to say that I have gone through the trauma session with Ashwini, and it has really immensely helped me out to deal with that trauma and overcome it with the time, basically, because this trauma was there with me for the last 14 years. So being a victim of domestic violence, and gradually and slowly that took over me and created a big trauma which really affected my day-to-day life. I ended up with procrastination. I ended up with forgetting things. I ended up doing things which I should not be doing. So then I took a step and I asked Ashwini can she help me out? And she did, actually. So this is real, people. If you really want to look into it, this is really real, and it does help people, you know. So Ashwini, over to you.
Okay. Yeah, so then uh, so now should we talk about type of a complex, or should we go into more detail with complex, or type of modality which can help in what? Like we can talk about hypnotherapy, or we can talk about EMDR or CPT in more
Yeah,
detail.
let's touch base with EMDR, CPT, all type of modalities, and see so people can understand what it is.
Okay, so let's start off with hypnotherapy. So I kind of studied RTT with Marissa Peer, and she has she has 30 years of hypnotherapy experience. So she kind of used NLP and CBT and has in hypnotherapy. So she kind of used all these three modalities, and she made her own modality called as RTT. So that's what I've learned. So it becomes like, so that just doesn't become intensely hypnotherapy. It becomes more combination of three therapies together. So wherein we actually again do kind of assessment with the client. We kind of see what are the symptoms.
Okay, before we go further down,
Yeah.
please explain the hypnotherapy you do. Is not hypnotize or take control over the people. Is that the hypnotherapy you do?
No, so basically, there is a stage hypnosis which is only for entertainment, and the the hypnosis part of it, is used for two things. Well, either it can be used for the entertainment, or it is actually in a more of a therapy. So when you take that particular science of hypnosis and use it to actually give therapy to somebody, beneficial, because what happens is in hypnotherapy is your, REM is a rapid eye movement, is like when you're sleeping, you're processing, as I said, the memories and everything, whatever is happening in your life. And then it is also a way that you have alpha waves wherein a person is like completely in a, where your subconscious mind is completely alert. So when you're doing hypnotherapy, you're using that kind of a wave. So you kind of we have tools and techniques wherein we take the person through steps, and we take you to the stage where you're in a light sleep. That is all. So you're not really going to be out of control. So if in between the session, if you feel you want to kind of go to the bathroom, you're actually in control. You get up and you go. So you're not really getting like, I'm controlling you and you're doing things. No, nothing like that. Because you are almost in sleep. You're sleeping and you're awake. You're in that mid state. Wherein,
so you're in that trance sleep. It's
yes,
called as trance sleep, isn't
you're
it?
in trance sleep, and if you feel like your bladder is full and you want to go to the bathroom, you're actually going to get up and go. So you have a control, and then we can take you back into that, get you back into the same mode. So like that. So the whole fear about hypnotherapy, oh my God, what is this? It's not really true. And what happens on stage is something different. Sometimes I think I don't even believe it actually it can happen. You can really control somebody to that level. You can't. And it is more important that, we just want to access those memories which you have kind of forgotten, and we want to access those memories which have caused you to have this kind of an issue. So if you're going to a therapist, you're going to go for a particular issue, let's say any issue for that matter. You're biting your nail, let's say your child is biting a nail, his or her nails, and also again, I would take the child to that particular stage, and then I would say, kind of make it as if why the child is doing it. Is there some incident that has happened that's making the child do it? And all. So it's a conversation where the child is talking, but the child is talking in sleep. And so even in case of adult, if somebody is into smoking, and I've taken him into that particular stage of, let's say, trance, a light trance, or, alpha waves, as we say, that person would come up with a memory wherein, where it started, why it started and all. So it could be even in a childhood, or it could be even adulthood, whenever. So any issue actually, subconsciously your mind is going to take you to that memory. So in hypnotherapy, it's actually taking you to that stage of trance, then connecting to your subconscious mind, pulling out the memories which you have actually consciously forgotten, taking out those memories and days, going through those memories, bits and parts, having a reaction from the client. Okay, tell me what exactly happened that day. So even though the client had completely forgotten about that incident, because that's what the brain does, sometimes it kind of blocks these kind of memories. The client will start talking about it without even realizing it. That is what the thing is. They will talk about the incident without knowing that this ever had happened to them. And then knowing the root cause of the problem is the only solution to it, because ultimately you're not just going to fix the symptoms, right? You're going to go to the root cause, the incident. So going to the incident and kind of accessing it and having a conversation with the person to make that person understand that this belief that you formed is because of this incident, and now this incident has happened in the past. Do you think you need to hold to this belief? And then the person says, no, actually I don't. And then when the person in his own trance realizes that he doesn't need to hold on to this kind of a behavior, is like a freedom to that person. And so once the person comes out of that hypnotherapy session, he's kind of done with the issue. So if the issue has been processed, your memory is not going to take it as something to be bothered or to be thought about. It's just going to move on then to your life. Then it doesn't feel sometimes the fact that, if somebody's hooked onto, even if we talk about even weight, weight is an issue. There are times when, in childhood, people have been kind of, let's say somebody has been said some kind of remarks about if the girl has been given some kind of remarks by boys and all, and she's like, no, I don't like that, they're talking about my body, and so I, why me and why I hate this kind of a thing. So even that develops that, you start like, okay, you want to kind of safeguard yourself from people making comments, so you kind of eat and don't want to look good kind of a thing. But you do that over a period of time, but you don't know when it started and how it started. So in hypnotherapy, it is more going to that day when it started and taking that memory out and letting okay, let's talk about it now. So a hypnotherapy session goes for 3 to 4 hours per issue. So if that issue is very, very complicated, it could even take 3 sessions, and every session goes for 3 to 4 hours, 3 hours actually, sometimes not too many, 4 hours only. If the client is very resistant, very skeptical, then it becomes difficult, and it does go for some time, because they don't, sometimes you just go and you say, you know what, this is not going to work for me, this is all whatever, I'm just going to go for it and all. But because it is nothing, it's just science, and it's really nothing hocus pocus, ultimately there is a lot of conversation wherein they, even though they are very resistant with what's coming out of their mouth and thoughts and subconscious mind, they are again trying to challenge themselves. They're challenging the therapist and they're challenging themselves and all. But so that kind of a thing, again, we have a lot of tools in hypnotherapy wherein we use those tools, and we kind of, sometimes they don't go back to memory because they are they're controlling their even thoughts. So they don't go back to the memories at all. So then we have to just go on with the feelings. When did the feeling first start? And then we have to direct to them any day that they know that this feeling started. And, so then there are different kind of tools. But so that is what it is. All hypnotherapy is like, going through the tools, making you understand. And then in the end of it, when you do understand the reason and the root and the cause, and we've used all the tools and everything, we also have something called as a role function, RFPI, and purpose and intention of any kind of, even if it's a disease, let's say, you're having some kind of a hair fall, or you have eczema, even that has the issues that has started somewhere, even as a child. And then even that can be fixed with hypnotherapy, skin issues and stuff like that, even hair fall, because then we go back where it started, how it started. And then we have like a 20 minutes kind of a transformation recording, which you listen for 21 days. So for what we do is we kind of, whatever old negative beliefs you've had, we kind of first of all break it. We kind of get you free out of that thing. You don't have to hold that belief, old one. And we're setting you free, basically. That's what it means. Once you're free of the old thoughts and you kind of erase them from your head, from your subconscious mind, then it's easy to kind of write up a new script in your head, and listen to that new script for 21 days, so that it kind of becomes a new memory for you, and you hold on to the new memory, wherein in the new that particular recording would have everything that you've said in the session which you want out of life, because we make that particular script only positive. That is thing, because a new recording has to be everything that you want, which you, and not talk about what you've got rid of, because we've already done that bit in the session. So when you're listening to that for 21 days, it becomes like a new database altogether. And when in subconscious mind there is new database, your behavior is going to be based on that database and not the one which is erased. So that's how the whole hypnotherapy works. So if you had a smoking issue, and you've gone through the whole hypnotherapy session and you've realized the whole reason why you've been actually smoking, you understood why you've been smoking, and now you've had this 21 days of hearing that we kind of make it little that your heart, your lungs are burning, and make it little ugly for you, the whole smoking aspect of it. So after 21 days you start detesting even the smell of anybody smoking around. That's how strong that particular new script would be, that you would be off your smoking. If in case it's a fertility issue, or and it started from childhood because of some whatever it is, so the script becomes that we kind of make it in a way that your body is ready to take in, like develop a baby and everything. So the script would depend on what you want, and we also go through the medical history, as in if it's something medical that we need to look into. So then we make a script accordingly, so that it is like, we kind of developing the cells are becoming healthy, and so on and so forth. Yeah, like that. So that is the whole hypnotherapy in short.
That's very, very interesting. Thank you for clarifying that. Okay, before we go further, I need to tell the your listeners. So thank you for tuning in today, listeners. You are on Bless One Radio on Unity 5 platform. And if you have any questions or you want to get connected with us, you can call us on 079 444 31366. The number is 079 444 31366. So please stay connected with us. We will talk more further in detail with Ashwini on today's topic, which is trauma. Ashwini, over to you again.
Yeah, so we spoke about hypnotherapy, and we spoke about what issues can be looked into. So it's not necessary, it's like, even if it's a single incident trauma, let's say, that also can be looked into by hypnotherapy, but it would take like 3 to 4 sessions of just hypnotherapy. And what I believe is that PTS, but then if it is something that the symptoms are little higher, then so when I do assessment, if the assessment is on little lower level, like, if I have like a benchmark to it, if I feel it's little at lesser level, then I kind of don't mind I do hypnotherapy, and it does work any which ways. But then if I see that assessment is going higher, then I would move on, because then I would need to kind of look into somebody in tri-phase model. So wherein the first phase would be completely getting that person stable. Second phase would be processing the trauma. And then third phase would be reintegrating the person back into society, because they have become, they can't even relate to society anymore. So even to teach them to go back to society is like a whole phase of treatment to teach them, take their hand and kind of move them towards the world, kind of a thing. So, but the first phase that I would do, even if it's a type 1 or a type 2 trauma, would be it would be complete stabilization. And then we have like stabilization tools. Mostly we call it like resourcing and stabilization. Okay. So in case of EMDR, we basically do bilateral stimulation. So EMDR stands for eye movement, desensitization, and reprocessing. So what it means is that, as we spoke about REM, even in hypnotherapy we use REM. So even in EMDR also it's REM which is coming into picture. We use bilateral stimulation to again stimulate them to kind of access those memories which have been traumatic memories, because it's there, and it's in so we call it adaptive processing. basically. Adaptive processing is wherein the memory which has got stuck in the symptoms are there and you're feeling the PTSD symptoms, we kind of access those memories through bilateral stimulation. So that is either we can do tapping on the knee alternately, or else we do eye movement. Primarily, it started with eye movement. You can, we'll be showing the finger in front of you. You'll be looking, and then we'll be moving to the right and the left. So your eyes are moving right to the left, to the right, to the left. So what you're doing is you're kind of connecting to your right hemisphere and left hemisphere. And at the same time, you would be actually stimulating your hippocampus would be stimulated and you would be accessing those memories. But this, we do it only in the second phase. The first phase, I would be doing slow kind of alternate stimulation, wherein we call it as a resourcing or stabilization. So EMDR becomes more technical and we call it as a bottom-up kind of a treatment. So we have to be very careful with EMDR. If by chance I'm doing EMDR with a person who's got a complex trauma and I have not diagnosed it, it could be dangerous as well. So assessment becomes very, very, very important, that it has to be type 1 for EMDR. A lot of people do complex treatment for PTSD in EMDR, but from my teacher, I feel the safest is only type 1 that you should connect. You should basically, while doing assessment, we'll come to know whether EMDR is safe or not safe for the person. Because when we're talking of bottom up, we're actually stimulating your limbic system. That is where your hippocampus and amygdala and thalamus is connected, and your triggers are there. Basically, your triggers live there. So when you are dealing with the triggers on day and day basis, and if any memory has got like a fetal memory, which has not been looked into, it's going to aggravate you altogether. So instead of working it for you, it would work against you if it is a complex trauma, because complex becomes multi-incidents. So one incident would be connected to, if it's a multi-incident, your one incident would be connected to another incident to another. So it's like a network. So you have to imagine that it's like more like a net, a fiber kind of a net connected to each other. It's like a cobweb. So if it's a cobweb, you have to be very careful when it is EMDR. But if it is a single incident, then EMDR is the safest, though it's a bottom up. And secondly, when it comes to EMDR, you can actually start off with, as I said, stabilization. So the stabilization techniques are mostly called as, we do something called as a safe place. So basically what you're doing is you're resourcing yourself with safety, because that is the first thing you're going to be feeling, that you're not safe anymore. So installing that kind of a safety and kind of doing something called as a butterfly hug, wherein we say, you're safe, you're fine, and then we're doing alternate tapping. So when you do slow tapping, it kind of resources that safety in you. Okay. You kind of take it in you. So then the whole first phase, even if it's 2 months, 3 months and all, and we keep on assessing every session that what are the PTSD symptoms which can be looked into. So then you'll find that the ones which actually, like the negative moods that you have, the snapping and all, that starts coming down slowly with safety, with stabilization and everything. Then we start looking into intrusions. Intrusion, it would be like we have something called as rewind technique or flashback techniques. So even in EMDR, we have different many tools and all. So wherein we kind of look into the triggers of daily basis, and then we do alternate tapping. Right now, because it's all online, we're not meeting the clients, and also eye movement becomes very difficult. So we train the client to do their own tapping, alternate tapping on the knees, and then process that particular trigger out of your body. So if it's a physical trigger, you have pain in your neck, let's say, because of the trauma. So again, when we're doing EMDR, it's just not the trauma. We have to see what type of symptoms you've developed. Sometimes it's even converted into physical ailment. For example, fibromyalgia, or you getting neck pain, you have knee pain and stuff like that. So even that bit, we kind of process it out using fast tapping in the first stage, just the physical, not the memories. We're not doing the memories in first stage. It's only the triggers and complete. So it's a body work, whatever is there in your body, whether, flashes or nature or moods or whatever, that all we need to kind of get it down in the first phase, because we want the persons to be stable. Unless and until the person is stable, we do not go to the second stage wherein we process the actual memories. So we kind of see to, so that's why sometimes even if there is a lot happening, on a daily basis, it does take time. So that's why EMDR can take sometimes 6 months, 7 months, depending. It does.
Depends upon the issue they are going through. Depends upon the issue they are going through.
Yes, depending on the issue that they are going through, it does take some. So yeah, it does take time. Minimum, I would say, like it. Minimum, I would say 3 months, and max, I would say 6 months. But yeah, it is important that they shouldn't be processed at all till the symptoms come down. So sometimes EMDR is, it's important that what kind of a EMDR therapist also are you going to? If they are not doing stabilization, then it's not safe, I would say. So yeah. So again, just because sometimes some EMDR therapists would directly go into the trauma processing, and that's why it kind of makes them worst. So there have been cases where people have got worst instead of better. So it's, be careful when you're going to the EMDR, any EMDR therapist. They should do assessment, they have to stabilize you, and then only they should move to the second stage. Yeah, so that's all about EMDR basically. Anything like you ask me, because ask me questions so that I can, I know where.
So what is the tough cases you have dealt till date? So okay, I need to, after you answer this question, I'll ask you another question. Sorry.
Okay, the tough cases, because I'm very careful about my assessments, I usually try to play safe for the clients as well as for myself. So when it comes to EMDR, I kind of, so I have, let's say, fear of darkness or panic disorders or anxiety or depression, eating disorders, OCD. And so I kind of look into it that way. But if you see what is success rates and all, because it is, I'm kind of stabilizing the client in the first stage, so they feel like, okay, they are like, now they feel okay, confident enough to go ahead with the second stage. So I think every case has been kind of quite learning experience, and I think it's like every case has been tough for me also, because you're learning through your own clients, as I said. So sometimes it is tricky, but also because it's all there and it's in very modular fashion. It depends. I think the tricky part is to actually get the clients to do homework, which I give all the time.
Yeah.
That is one thing, because I tell them that if you want to get better, you have to put in efforts. It's not a pill. You're not taking any medication. The only thing you're going to do is, if I give you homework, when you have to do, there are different type of breathings I teach them. And the breathings that I teach them are not the breathings that, okay, I'll just teach them, okay, let's do the breathing this way and that way. I said, no, we do something like, we have a full-on neuroscience lecture about what exactly breathing are you doing and why you're doing. So we go into the whole gamut of your cortisols, we go through your whole HPA axis, adrenals, your pituitary glands, and everything. So when you are doing breathing, you actually know why you're doing breathing in this fashion. So if in case, you're feeling very flooded with emotions and you're very, your sympathetic nervous system is activated, as we say, fight and flight, then I have to tell them that you have to have slow exhalation. Why do you need to have slow exhalation? Then you have to give a reverse message to your brain that you're safe. How would you do that? By doing slow exhalation. Why slow exhalation? because your lungs, the only thing that you can control externally, which is there in your control. Otherwise, your emotions are something hijacking. So your emotions are your hijacking in your head, and you have to give a reverse message saying that actually the trauma has already happened. I'm not in a trauma. This is just a symptom. What am I doing? Fine. Then we do slow breathing. So everything that I teach is like a homework that they have to do. They have to write down things, and they have to kind of do safe place. And so there are these recordings that I give them. They have to listen to them in the night, because that is one thing they have to instill in them, that this session is important, this homework is important. And so that is something that I kind of find tricky, because sometimes they are so into emotions that doing these things also is not possible for them. But over a period of time, because they also know I'm always available, whenever they are into trigger mode. So I do EMDR to just take the triggers out of their body. Then I teach them, I do resourcing. Resourcing also if they're feeling very unloved that day. So I resource somebody who they really love a lot with slow tapping. So kind of install the good feeling, do the breathing, work through the triggers in the first stage, whatever is happening. So it takes a lot of, that way I think it works out. So that's why it also depends not only on me, but it depends on the clients. How much are they really putting in after the session? Because, weekly sessions can just do as much as they can do. But if the client is to really get well, then they have to work towards getting well, even in a slow stage, not like in a pushy way, but even in a baby step way. Yeah, so my sessions, my phases depend on the client, how they do, how much they can take, cannot take. There are times that I tell them take a break, let's not do anything, because they just want to process their feelings and all. Yeah.
That's interesting. Okay, now we are coming to a big question.
Yes.
The big question is, how much do you charge for this therapy?
Okay, so if it's a hypnotherapy, then my charges are around 150 pounds per session. And if it is multiple session, then again I would be charging. If it's an issue which takes multiple sessions, then probably if it takes 3 sessions, I'll probably charge you only 300. But per session, per issue, I would just say per issue, I charge 150 to 200 pounds. And but if it is something that I decide that if it's EMDR or if it's CPT, then per session it would become like between 40 to 50, I think, because I think that's what the the charges are per session. But again, depends on the affordability and installments and everything.
Yeah, that was the next question I was going to ask you. If I decide to do a therapy, do I and if I ask you for the installment process, do you do that installment process?
I do installment process. So let's say if I know you're going to be, you need like a 6 months of session, 6 months, and every week you would be coming. So I have to say 4 sessions per month. So that would become pretty expensive. So then I would go half the charge of it. But then, depending. So if it's a 500, if the whole thing comes to, let's say, 1,000, then I would probably charge you only 500 or something like that. And you can pay that in installment. Are we talking about £1,000 only because we were talking about 6 to 7 months of sessions? Then, and if you're talking about per session £50, then it would come quite a bit. It would come probably 200 per month or something like that. But then I think I would probably, I think it depends on the affordability of the client, seriously speaking. For me, it's more what they can afford, frankly speaking, and how they can afford. That's important.
That's very good to know. Because not everybody will think like that, because this is the business for them, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, it is. It is a business, but also going, I'm going to say, because complex traumas and complex trauma clients are mostly, who have had a lot of physical abuse and childhood abuse, have come to the stage where I feel they are not very resourceful as far as even working is concerned. Is something that unfortunately it has to be looked into by the GPs and everybody, and they have to be given right kind of a thing. There is a gap between the private therapists and the GPs. They are not being directed for the complex treatment, rather just the PTSD treatment, and that's a fall here right now. So that we all are kind of struggling that we are not able to support the people whom we want to support, and they are being misdiagnosed and being given the other treatment. So also because because there's a huge gap here, so somehow that becomes difficult for us as well. So, but again, going for the charges and all personally is concerned, I will literally go for a person's affordability for per session. Even if the person can give me £10 or £20 to start off with, that would be good enough for me.
Okay, and they can pay by debit card, credit card, and cash?
Currently, I think they have to transfer money into my account, but I'm working towards doing that bit and all. Like I'm trying to get to the PayPal and everything, but I usually just ask them to transfer the money into my account or pay by cash, whatever.
That's good to know. That's good to know. So, okay, listeners, thank you for listening to us. This is Purvi Vasani on Blast One Radio on Unify platform. If you have any questions for Ashwini, or you want to get in touch with us and talk to us, call us on 079 444 31366. The studio number is 079 444 31366. Okay, Ashwini, over to you.
Okay.
So I was asking you about case studies. Have you come across any what do we say? Any tricky case to date?
Yes, actually, as I said that whether be hypnotherapy or EMDR or even complex trauma case studies or clients that I have, I think it's not like just issue that we're looking into. We're just looking into the symptoms. Sometimes the symptoms are going up and down. So that becomes very tricky that you're working towards, kind of getting the symptoms down, but they're not coming down. So then you have to kind of do more assessment, more, you have to up your game, basically, see what's happening in the person's personal life. I think that's the only trickiness I kind of get, by delaying, because I think every day for me or every issue for me, it's like, it's so any which ways I follow a particular modality in very sequential way. But sometimes I have to just kind of take a call, like, okay, you know what, this is not working today. Let me just do something else. So that becomes tricky when things are not working for what you've been trained, and then because the client is not just ready for it. Like I had a client who was just not ready for EMDR, and she was just not even though I was trying to kind of do the first phase, she was so overactivated that I couldn't do even stabilization with her at all. That is when I had to literally tell her that now you need medications. So that is one, I think in overall, I have only had one case wherein I literally had to kind of back out and say, I can't do it because it's very important if they start talking about suicidal ideation, and or else if they are very overactivated wherein they are continuously crying and they are not even they can't even do stabilization, is when they have to have medication. So that is, I think, I've had only a single tricky case wherein I had to say that even my supervisor said that we shouldn't look into this case because she needs to be first medically stable. So that is when the psychiatrist would come into the picture and do the assessment. So then we give the assessments, whatever we've done with the clients, and forward it to them. They give the medication to stabilize them. So they become just stable enough to go for our kind of a stabilization, but not too hooked on to actually then become numb. So there is also a very fine line wherein they should not overdo taking medications as well, because we need them to be emotional and not numb to process most of the memories. So if you're taking some kind of a medication and those just make you just stable and pretty much you do not feel anything. Then when you're not feeling anything and you stop taking medication, all the PTSD symptoms were any which ways there, but you didn't feel it then because you were taking medication. But then the moment you stop medicines, then they will come over, and then those PTSD symptoms will be worse than before.
Okay.
So
I never knew that.
yeah, that is very tricky. So you have to be, again, that is why I'm saying that if they are going and they are being just given medicines and all, again, is a wrong way. They have to first, they have to be assessed to know, are they really to the point that they do need medication or they do need therapy. That if they are going to the GP, fine, they have to do their due job. If they are coming private places like us, and if we realize that they are not getting stable altogether, we anyway going to ask them to go to the GP. So I did ask this one person to go to the GP. The GP did give her medications and stuff like that. Now she is on medication. So whenever she feels that she's a little bit stable, she'll come back to me, hopefully. Yeah. So this was one person that I can tell you about.
Very, very interesting to know. So I just want to ask: is this trauma can be a combination of a therapy and the medicine, or just the therapy?
No, it can be combination of therapy and medicine. As I said, they're always going to be assessed by us. If we find it that they are going way beyond, let's say if the markup is beyond 50, 60, if you know, we have something called as a general anxiety disorder list. We have something called as PHQ, that is a questionnaire for the depression. We have DESNOS. So we have like impact event, DSM-5, PCL. So these are just the assessments that we have to do. We even do borderline personality disorder assessments and everything we do. So when we see that after doing assessments, we realize that this person has actually come to the end of it and is not going to be even, you know, the therapy is not going to help that person, is when we direct that person to the GP and actually say, no, this person needs to be a little stable to even come back to therapy. So once they do that, and then the GP informs us, yes, now the person, like whatever period of time, then they come back to us, then it becomes like a combination of both. That's the only time. Or else if we feel that this is something more on schizophrenia, if it is more psychotic, is when we do not take clients like that. If there is any kind of a, even for that matter, I do not take anybody with narcissism. I do assessment for narcissistic personality disorder. If I find the person into more of that trait, I do not take them personally. So yeah, so these are the three things that we are not really, as at least in CPT, that the one which I do, I do not. There's something called as a dialectic behavioral therapy that is for the personality disorders as well, along with it. So that's another modality which can be looked into on comorbidities. But as far as I'm concerned, at this stage of my career, I do not look into anything very too much into comorbidities. So that is the time when we do. So when we do assessments, we know that what is our specialization. Can we do it? Should we not do it? Shouldn't, so we have like the ethical, like the whole list actually, basically. So when we find if it's medication, we have to refer them back to the GP. They have to either go to the psychiatrist or whatever, in the sense, their own thing. If it is something very, again, more towards schizophrenia or psychosis, again, they have been directed to the critical health, mental health departments and everything. But when we see them not really to the end of it, but just before, and we know they are just the complex trauma, and they have not gone into the severe stage of psychosis or anything further than hysteria, is when we kind of look into that. So yes. And also, if in case the person if the person has come to me for a single incident, let's say only car accident, another person cannot drive the car, and say, you know what, the issue is only car accident and that's it. But then when I do assessments and I find there have been childhood kind of bullying, then I kind of change my lookout to it. Yeah. Then I do have to tell them, no, I'm not going to go ahead with this one. I will be going ahead with this one.
Okay. That's interesting to know.
Yeah.
It's very, very interesting to know. So okay, now my next question would be, what would you advise the common people in
Uh,
trauma? My next question would be, what is your advice to people who are suffering trauma?
I think, see, the people who are basically suffering trauma, we all are suffering trauma on regular basis, right? I mean to say, personally, we've had a history of trauma. People who are going through trauma, the only thing is that it's very difficult for them to really understand that they are actually having symptoms of it, because sometimes they can be just taken in general. I'm always anxious. I don't know why, but I'm always anxious. So till the point, I feel they don't understand that, if they realize that this particular thing is now bothering their daily life, my
Hmm.
advice would be to have themselves assessed by somebody to know, whether this is just a general anxiety we're talking about, or we're talking about acute anxiety disorder, basically. Because
Oh,
you can develop acute anxiety disorder if you had a childhood trauma. That becomes your nature, second nature. But then that anxiety could come to a point that you would completely become so numb that you won't feel anything. Then that leads to depression. So then you would come to that. So when you know that you're falling in between anxiety and so if you feel in a day you're having different moods altogether, you're feeling okay, one moment you're okay, the next moment you're crying for no reason, then you know actually that the trauma is actually caught on to you, and now you really need to take help from somebody. And take help, like that's what I would say, because so many therapists, so many people available to support now, that the
yeah.
only, yeah, the only thing is that sometimes we just get on with it.
Yes.
And but that's not really right, because
Because you know what the mentality of some people is, it's like what I say. It's like it's a fashionable thing, and it's only for rich people,
yeah,
and people who have a lot of money can afford to do what like trauma thing. It is not
yeah,
like that. That
no,
is the thinking of some people, that they don't want to do it because it's only for rich people. But this is not divided by rich or poor.
no, you
It
could
is
be the richest person and have anxiety, and you could be the poorest person, you could still have the same anxiety. Brains, I think brains are not going to say rich and poor, they're just going to react to what's happened to them, and they are going to behave in a particular way. So it's just the stigma of actually going to a therapist, saying, what, maybe the person is like, going to anybody, and looking at mental health in a very if somebody, because I do have clients who are Asians and who do not want to be, who can't even tell their husbands that they are going for therapy, because and they do need therapy, you know
yes. Other thing is like, one thought is that it is only for rich people. Yeah, it is a fashionable thing, and
yeah,
only rich people can go through. Other thing is, what would the society think
yeah,
of me?
yeah,
Will they're not categorized, because society is still not aware. It's still, the awareness is little low. It's very, very low about mental health, actually.
yeah, so that
I know
is,
we are staying into the first world country,
mm-hmm,
but still I can see that awareness and acceptance of mental illness is still very low, you
yeah.
know.
So psychological education is the first thing that we need to now seriously look into, even in schools. That I
Yeah.
would say that, starting off, if not school, I feel school probably in a lighter doses, not really too much in serious way, but even, teaching the parents about the whole, what exactly, even if we feel that we are doing something right, it might not go right by the child, and that will probably, if you're too controlling about your child, that child might develop some kind of a disorder in future, won't be confident, and then that would become depression. So we basically, whatever is happening to the child around is developing the disorders right from the childhood. So the whole education has to be from right from the parents to the teachers to the universities. I think somewhere mental health has to be taken very, very seriously, because by end of the day, it is as important as your physical health. And also physical health, 80% to 90% are actually converted psychological health issues.
Yeah,
So
I agree with you. I
it
agree.
so even when we call it like axis, if I might just not be saying right, but if it's the axis 5, so when we do diagnosis, we also do axis 5 diagnosis, is where the person has come to the so beyond complex trauma, when the physical body starts taking toll of it, they end up having IBS, they end up having diabetes type 2. So that becomes a converted trauma for us, hair fall, or everything. So now again, that has again started psychologically somewhere. So instead of just popping pills, if the person could be taught that actually there was a root cause why you got diabetes, and looked into the root cause more from the therapist point of view, and then have medication, that would have a faster recovery even on diabetes, I can tell you that much.
Okay.
So it's very important that the education, the psychological education, has to be somewhere. It has to start. That again, that's the problem. I'm like, that is where it has to start for all
Yeah,
of
because
us.
you know what, psychological education is also important, and the acceptance of
Yeah,
people accepting people having a mental illness, and not making them discomfort, or not judging them, or not, not um, like not naming and shaming them, I would say.
yeah,
And when they are talking about or sharing what they are going through, a lot of people would not understand, first of all,
yeah,
because their awareness and their understanding about the issues are not there. And then on the secondary, when they do listen, they start making judgments, you
yeah,
know, about the people, and they come straight to the conclusion without any knowledge that this person has gone insane. That's the issue of this common of this society in common, actually. So
yeah,
that's why that is, and the societal pressure is so much that people does not want to come forward and talk about it openly, or discuss about it openly, actually.
yeah,
And the other factor I could say is the environment, home environment, because the connection at the home with child and parent is
yeah,
getting lesser and lesser, because parents are struggling to put food on the table, and they have to work long hours to get that food on the table. So that connection with the child, the communication with the child is finished. And to on the top of it, the child start taking advantage of the parents' situation, and to just have a peace of mind, what the parents do is just treat them, give them what they want, rather than talking to them, discussing with them what's going on in their life, looking into who are their friends, is anything bothering the child.
yeah. I think so. I agree with you completely. I think the conversation, again, as I said, that the parents have to start talking to children. They have to understand what's going on around with them. Sometimes, even in school, if it's a peer pressure, can affect the child. So, have a conversation, because the more they talk, the more emotionally they process their days with the parents. The more they are actually, in their head, they are having some kind of a help. So, like, it's very important that children are given that kind of a support by parents, by being there for them at any moment of the time, and trying just avoid being on social media all the time, being on the Facebook or chats and this and that. If a child is coming and say showing some kind of a thing, show interest, a lot of interest in what your child is doing, however busy you are. Maybe you can take a time out if you're on the call, but then go back to your child and listen to your child. Is very important. Try not to control your child too much, because again, as I said, don't be a carpenter, be a gardener. Just let them learn their own things, but try to kind of go through the
nurture them, you know,
nurture them.
with good environment.
Yeah,
You know?
so yeah, that is important. See, because as we talk about it, when now that you're talking about children, you need to understand that there are kind of five type of as babies. You're going to become you're going to go into five categories. So it again depends on how you've had your relationship with your mother. First thing, okay, that is what is going to develop the child, first of all, or even for that matter your father, because if he's not around, then the mother probably would be the primary person. Even if the father is around, he's looking into one aspect of the child and everything. So the child needs to know that, okay, if anything, I can go and reach out to my parents during the time of need. So that kind of safety that per child feels is very, very important for the development and the confidence that child can have in future to kind of have any situation come to him or her, and he can just deal with it as an adult. But if he doesn't have that support coming from parents, the child is already struggling, and then when he goes in society as an adult person, he's already got a disorder right from the childhood. And that could be anxiety, or it could be anything like depression, or it could be confidence and all like that and all. So it's very, very important for us as parents, or so it is difficult at times for mothers who are also going through their own trauma, to be there for the children. That is one thing. But also, when if the mother is going through some trauma, the child is going to get it through you. So you have to also, sometimes it's difficult to watch out yourself all the time. At times when you can't deal with your own emotions, take a time out and be somewhere else, and go back to your child. Or even if you're showing the emotions in front of the child, let the child know that you're dealing with something, so they feel confident enough to kind of support you. And you would want to kind of be, again, as I said, because PTSD symptoms is something that what I have kind of come across with my clients is that they are going through their own PTSD symptoms, so they are lashing out at their children, being angry, being snappy. That has given PTSD symptoms to children now.
Yes, I agree. I cannot agree with you more.
Hi, everybody.
I agree with you more. Hi.
Hi, Purvi. I've been listening a little bit, still been in and out, but been listening. How you doing, sister? Ashwini.
Hi.
All right. I've got a couple of questions, if you don't mind.
Yes.
Okay. First of all, right, I'm gonna go back to what you were saying a minute ago on the children, because first of all, before we continue, can you give out your contact, your website, or how we can contact you?
Yeah, so my website is www.ashwiniptherapy.co.uk.
How do you spell that for the listeners who don't know how to find it?
ASH.
Yeah.
WINI.
Yeah.
P, that is Papa.
Yeah.
Therapy.
Mm-hmm.
So all together, Ashwini P Therapy.
Yeah.
.co.uk.
Okay. Then do you have a Facebook or WhatsApp or anything like that?
I have my I have a phone number, and actually because I am currently even certifying in all these modalities, so I thought when I make my website, it'll be all together.
Okay.
So
then.
it just has information about hypnotherapy, but now it's complete trauma informed.
Well, as long as they can find your website, that's the main thing.
Yeah, as long as I can.
All right. Question number one. All right. Here's the question now. You was talking about children with trauma.
Hello?
Yeah, hi.
Ashwini, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Les, we lost you.
Oh, can you hear me now? Hi. Can you hear me? Okay. Oh, you can hear me now, innit? Hello? Hello there. What? Are you serious? Aye. Oh, what? Don't worry about it, people. I know what it is. Right. We're gonna sort this out in a minute and get this thing back up and running. Alright, here it is. Alright, that's it. And for those who are locked into blessradio1.com. Yeah. And today we're talking a little bit about trauma. And hopefully the ladies can get back into this. Right. Here we are. Hi. Oh, here we go now. Well. Alright, here we are. Sorry for the delay, people. It's not my fault, it's technology. You know it go already. You get into the technology thing, it just go on funny. And look at the point, look at the timing as well. You're so smart.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi. Are you back now?
Yeah, what happened?
We lost you actually.
I don't know what happened. Must be my energy, you know?
No, your energy has brought you back, so don't worry, your energy is in full form. So you had questions for Ashwini.
Okay, Ashwa.
Ash.
You call me Ash.
Ashwi. I call her Ashwi.
Okay, Ashwini.
Ashwi. All right, this is the question. Number one, yeah?
Yeah.
Was there a time when your children got out of hand?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And was in a situation where there wasn't listening, especially the boys sometimes that happens to as well.
Yeah.
Was there a time in your family where one of the children got out of hand and wouldn't listen? How did you deal with it? Can you give us an example of how you dealt with it?
I have a teenager right now, and it's quite a struggle. He because he's also kind of he's experiencing, and I think he's listening from school and everything.
Okay.
But whatever, so even if he's kind of throwing a tantrum, I let him throw the tantrum. I kind of let him process it, because that's the only way they are going to be emoting at this time of time. That's the way they express their emotions.
Really?
Yeah, like I kind of but then I have a conversation after they've expressed it. Then I say, okay, I know you're upset right now. Okay, even to the point, if he's crying, he's banging the door, saying bad words and everything, I simply say, I understand you're very upset right now. And then I leave him for some time till he kind of processes the anger. And then he comes back and I say, okay, let's talk about it. What happened? And then I sit and I have a full conversation with him, wherein he understands that if something did happen in school, he would react in particular fashion. He would be angry, he would be snappy, he would be depressed, he won't talk, he would say mean things and all. So also because of my whatever studies background and everything, when I did not study, when I didn't go for therapy and all, I would react like probably I would get upset. I would say things to him and everything. Then he would get more angry. Then probably as a child, he would react in extreme fashion. But now what I do is I let him go through his tantrum, because I know that's how he's emoting his emotions. And he needs to. I tell him, you have to, even if you're angry, express it. Do you want to hit a pillow? Express it. Take it out right
Really?
now.
Is that
Is
that how you see it? So even if it comes to the point where he verbally disrespects you, you will still let him get that out?
Actually, he does, because he's learning new words right now. He doesn't understand the meaning, most of them. I say, is this a new word you listened to, you heard today? Who taught you this word? Where did you listen to this word? And he would say, okay, you know what, somebody said like that in school, and this is it, and this and that and all. I say, okay, fine. Do you know the meaning of this word? He's like, no, I don't know the meaning of this word. So then I'll say, okay, it is not a good thing to say, but why saying it? He said, because, sometimes they just want to do it because they want to they're learning new things and they're feeling very naughty about everything. So depends if he's upset about something and that's why he's saying something. I kind of let him say it, but then I also tell him the meaning of that
Yeah, but
word.
hold on,
And that
hold on. Don't you find that disrespectful though? Doesn't he know that it's disrespectful to say that in the first place?
No, but I will cut you both here. I would say that if the child does not know the meaning of that word, it does not make any difference whether it is respecting or disrespecting. Because child is not knowing the meaning because somebody has said in the school and they have just picked it up because it's a new word.
Yeah, but my point is this. Yeah, Purvi, my point is this. When you're in your look at the scenario. When you were younger and in your parents' house, could you do that? Can you if you're angry, could you go around slamming doors and shouting in your parents' house? Could you do that when you was younger?
So like I've grown up in India. If I had to use bad words, the next thing there would be a tight slap on my face.
That's my point. I'm not saying you must slap him, but I'm saying back in our time, that was not acceptable. But so why is it acceptable now?
Because I think the current generation is very logical. Okay, during our time we understood this is our culture and everything. So growing up in India, probably that was culture for us. Yeah, you say something, you either get hit or you get abused or whatever. Not all the time. But you know what? In my house, though I've grown up in India, my parents were pretty cool about it. If I did use bad word like even F, my father would just raise his eye. Like, when I just became like 18, 19 probably, then he didn't really react. But if younger, then probably my mom would have reacted. But I think right now also because the kids out here are already taught that it's okay to, like, I don't know about here, but that's what I'm saying, that we have to be careful here. We can't react in a particular fashion the way probably parents in India would react. You have to be careful. Secondly, I think hitting and just reacting is not the answer to it, or you kind of playing it out with the child. You need to also understand that's a child. He doesn't have cognitive understanding what's right and wrong.
We were children too, yeah. And even in this, we brought up in this country.
Wait a second, Les. I would like to cut. Yes, we were children too, but the society we were growing up. Yeah, the society we were growing up is like was different than the society now we are in.
I'll allow you on that
because culture, the whole thought process has changed.
All
when
right.
we were younger, our parents did not tell us that this is wrong or right.
All right.
They just reacted to the situation, what we did.
All right. Well, I see things slightly different on that point there, but I'm not going to go too much in it because I don't have a lot of time to finish this off. But I think what goes on outside the house can affect the children, yes? But what goes on inside the house, first thing is respect. That's without questioning.
That is also important. So no, I totally get it, Bess. What I'm saying here is that the child will definitely express whatever they have to express because they have no understanding what they're doing at that point. And they are really extremely angry in something has happened in school. They want to react to it, right? And you have to be there to kind of take them. If they're falling down, you have to hold them. Once they understand that, okay, what they did, because it will come a moment where the child will express extremely, and the parent probably has to be very cognitively and calmly go through that whole situation with the child. Once the child is normal and he's already expressed his tantrum and everything, then the parent has to sit down and say it's a right or a wrong thing. Or if instead of expressing in this fashion, if you can come and tell me what happened, let's talk about it. So that is what exactly I'm saying, that when the child is reacting, don't cut the child.
I understand that. Obviously, the child has to express itself. I understand that.
Yes,
I agree with that.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
No, but also one more thing is that when the child is reacting and you control, what will happen is that it becomes a PTSD symptom. You're looking at a future, somebody with a future who will have PTSD. or any kind of a disorder, because every time the child has tried to express, he's been cut down.
Yeah, but you don't have to cut them down. You don't have to cut them down. They can express themselves, but they still got to learn certain morals that you want them to carry on from what you've learned. Your morals, what you was brought up, the principles, you want them to also carry that on too. But I understand what you're saying, though. I do understand what you're saying.
I agree with you. I agree with you, Bless. I agree with you. But now the generation is, this generation needs explanation of things we are doing. Yeah. Because if in my generation, if my mother hits me, I would not question why did she hit me. But if I hit my child turn around and question me, why did you hit me? Mm-hmm. You know, but that's the difference. This is generation difference.
I hear you. I understand. Hitting is not the only answer, as she says.
I'm just giving you an example. Sorry, I'm just giving you an example.
Yeah, no, I say, but as Ashley's point of view is very good, because if we can learn to do what Ashra does, then that will be a good way of doing it still, because a lot of us need to learn how to listen to them. I'm not saying that they must be disrespectful, but from what you're saying there's room to give and take a little bit, because they do have to be able to express themselves. As long as they will say what the problem is afterwards, then it's worth them expressing themselves, like, to a point. As long as
with my son, it's usually, it's like all the tantrum and then lots of tears and lots of sorry, and then it's all a chocolate and ice cream and cake. It's like, okay, you know what, I'm sorry, Mama, I said this to you. I did not mean this to you.
That's cool.
Yeah, just so they understand that they did wrong. But let them let them have their expression. That's what I'm saying.
As long as they do that in the end, that's all right. But some of them don't. Some of them just slam the door and go out. You know, but I'm just saying, we're not going to go into that, but I'm just saying.
When they come back, you need to sit and talk to them. That's the other thing. When they come back, they slam the door and go, let them go. Out of their own quiet moment. But then communication is really important at that stage of time, to talk to your child and see what's the matter.
Okay, then.
Because you are a parent and it's your responsibility. You know, it's your responsibility to understand the child and understand the situation at the same time.
I hear you.
You know?
Well, our culture is slightly different. Yeah.
Yeah, but yes, our culture is slightly different. I understand. I totally understand, because I've grown up in that culture. But now we need to change with the time.
No, you don't.
And we we need to, as a parent, because when we were growing up, the connection with our parents was not so strong.
You know, I don't think we need to
respect at the same time.
Yeah,
it was either fear or respect. But this generation is different. Right. We need to connect, because society is so different outside. They have to face the world, and the society is so very different outside.
Okay, all right,
you know?
All right. I hear you. All right, everybody, listen to that still. But I'm just saying what I know what I'm saying, because I've seen. Purvi, can I speak now, please? I know, but what I'm saying is, our generation, our culture is slightly different, and you have youngers who's come from the UK, hooked on computers and all of these stuff. But you see, when they get back home, all that is not, you know, they learn to respect grandmother, great grandmother. They learn automatically that you have to approach them in a certain. It's not about where you come from or what your trauma is. When you're in front of granny or grandfather or one of the elders like that, there are just certain principles. If you can behave like that in front of your teacher or in front of a doctor, no matter how angry you are, if you go in the courthouse, you've got to kind of compose yourself. So in a sense, people can do it if they want to, because you can't act like that in a court. You can't act like that to your doctor. You can't act like that to your teacher. So you know there's certain people that you can't do it to. And your elders is one of them. That's all I got to say. Right. Now, Ashi, why did you take up this profession in the first place?
Oh, because I think personally, even when I just like I have just come out of a divorce and everything. So for me, when I started off even studying, I had like a my own health issue that I was reading about. So one thing led to another, and then I wanted to kind of, either I wanted to go for psychotherapy as 5 years of kind of a study, or maybe go into hypnotherapy and then move on to trauma. So that is why I think it was my personal experience, as well as wanting to kind of be there for somebody who's been through what I've been through. And if I had kind of a help, that probably I would have, it would have been easier for me to relate to the symptoms, instead of feeling that I'm going mad, or, going to the mental like crisis department, getting suicidal ideations, trying to commit suicide twice or thrice. And so I think I've been through all of it. So myself being a complex case, I haven't still come out of my own complex PTSD symptoms. I still have them. So it also kind of makes me relate to everything that whoever's going through what, I completely relate. So it's more of understanding what I'm going through, more of helping somebody who's going through what I'm going through, and supporting and giving back to society. I think that's what. And I've always, my mother is she's a lecturer in psychotherapy, so it's always been sorry, psychology. So it's always been in my house. But I went into engineering, and then I thought, okay, this is a change that I would like to do in my career.
Okay. I've only got a couple more questions, and then I'm going to want Purvi to answer something for me. Right?
Yeah.
Is there any natural treatment? Natural. What would you say is a natural treatment for trauma, for the trauma, and for what you do? Is there any natural treatment?
See, the thing is that as far as okay, fine, there are modalities, right, for trauma, different modalities. Some of them I'm studying, some of them maybe other people are studying, like brain spotting and everything. The natural treatment cannot happen unless and until the emotions are, processed. When you're going through trauma, you're going through something, like your brain is getting attacked by something, right? So now naturally, by medicines or something, medicines won't, or even naturally, I'm just saying, even meditation. So let's say you're trying to say, let's do meditation and let's see everything can come out. But no, meditation will just try to make you numb or calm. But your PTSD symptoms are there in your brain. They have to have voice. Somebody has to listen to your brain. So who has to be that somebody? Has to be therapist. So naturally, I don't know if there are any natural kind of trauma therapies, but mostly it is processing. When we're talking about trauma, it becomes more, more brain work, and only professionals who understand exactly the reason and the symptoms can support you, because you'll otherwise be sustaining. So if, as we say, I'm also a Buddhist practitioner. So for me also, even as being a Buddhist practitioner, I will never use my Buddhism for my clients till they are completely stable and they're out of the trauma. Because this is something, just a meditation to calm you down, to get you back into the society. That is a natural thing that I do in the last stage. But in the beginning, it has to be complete rigorous work with the client. It's difficult, it's painful, because you don't want to look at your demons. And there is no natural way. There is only very ugly way to go through it.
Okay. This is my final question for the people. That I have to throw this one in. Yeah. Animals. Can my puss, can my puss get trauma? Can it be traumatized?
Yes, I don't have knowledge of it, but I do know that they go through trauma. I have a colleague of mine who has who train, like, I think she looks into dogs and stuff like that.
So
they do have PTSD symptoms.
They have trauma.
Yes, they do get trauma.
How are you gonna know this?
I don't know. That's what I'm saying. I don't know about it. One of my colleagues, she does, and she's been qualified into it. So there is a way to even get trained in that as well.
So you mean to tell me they get trauma too?
Yes, they do get trauma too. They will react. They will cry. They'll emote everything.
Wow.
Why do you think they might be barking for some reason? Maybe they're just traumatized. They want to express it. That's the way they are showing their negative arousal.
Okay, so for all you animal lovers, you know, sir, the kitty cat can get traumatized. You know what I mean? So that's that. Now, what you've talked about, then that means basically a lot of it. Purvi.
Yes, I'm there.
Okay, right. I'm gonna ask you a question in this, right? Because you seem to know a lot about this as well. Yeah. When somebody's traumatized, or whatever you want to call it, can some of it be mind over matter? Is it a mind over matter thing? Because some people just don't understand what people who are going through trauma are feeling. And some people just say, like, I know somebody who they're going through some trauma, and everybody just saying the same old thing. Oh, it's in your mind. You need to just relax and calm down. Is it just? It's not as simple as that, is it? All the time.
No, it's not that simple as that.
So
it's not as simple as that. It's more than that, because if the person who is there does not understand what the other person is going through, then he does not understand, or she does not understand what is trauma all about.
Okay,
you know?
so that means can love can overcome trauma then, innit? If that person's been given some kind of love, that should be helped them.
A place, a listening ear can also help, because what Ashwini did with me was listening ears, going through me, making me understand what I was going through and why I was going through, and
Okay.
what are the resourcing. She gave me the resourcing to do. I did it, and it really helped me out.
So
Sometimes we just need a listening ear. Sometimes,
yeah, that's what Ashwa was saying. So that means love really is is a natural treatment.
Yes, it is.
So
Nice.
when I do resourcing in first stage, whether it's a single incident or multiple incidents, what I do is in the first stage is that it's like making you feel safe, making you feel loved. So you might have some kind of angel that you want to resource. Let's say you believe, it depends on what you believe in. So you kind of say, okay, now imagine that the angel is sitting right in front of you, doing the blessing and everything, and now you're ready to receive it. What color are you seeing and all? Let's tap the resource it. Or maybe you see your child and see the love that the child is giving you, or you giving the child. So first stage of that before processing is always that it's love, it's loving kindness, compassion, then giving strength to that person to go through the whole treatment, then having the strength of everything, aspirations, affirmations. So first stage is all about that, to basically take you and make you understand that you're in a safe hand, but you have to practice it. If I tell you, if I'm giving you a recording for somebody, like you want to have a spiritual guide, then you listen to it while going off to sleep. So you're right, love is a very important aspect of treatment.
Okay, not shouting, swearing, but love.
Shouting and swearing happens the second stage when you want to process the trauma. Then we do need you to just express it. But because in the first stage we get you to that point of being so resilient and strong that and the triggers of your body are looked into so much by doing EMDR. That's you don't really shout in the second stage. Then you become very cognitively aware of your feelings. Then you can talk about your trauma. So that is what I need. Instead of crying and talking about your trauma, we look into the whole part of crying in the first session by making you feel good. Second stage, you will talk about the trauma and you will process it like rationally. And then when your brain says, okay, you know what? This happened because of this reason, and that's why I believe in this, and now I have come to this conclusion that I do not want to trust people at all. Then we say, okay, but do you feel that way now, after we've been through why you feel this way? Say, no, I don't feel any way. So that's what, so trust, again, intimacy, self-esteem, everything is looked into it. It's just not processing of trauma, but it's every you're looked into it physically, emotionally, psychologically, mentally.
Okay. All right. So are you a single parent?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so that means that no. The reason why I'm asking you is because it's very, very important of where it's coming from. Where's this information coming from? And for people who are listening, that a lot of people that has these problems, especially with children, are mainly single parents. So because of the information that you are giving us from that point of view, I know a lot of ladies can relate to you, and a lot of girls can relate to you because you understand that. Sometimes people give advice when they haven't been there, and they don't, they haven't lived it, but they're giving advice.
Yeah.
So because you've come from that background, it's good to know that you've come out at this end, giving the advice. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you.
That's it. That's all I got to say today on that issue there. You know what I mean?
Thank you.
It was all right.
Thank you.
Purvi.
Thank you, Ashwini, for joining in.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, we'll talk to you again. Love to talk to you again.
Yes, definitely. Please do let me know.
All right, cool.
Yeah, we can do a second session maybe following week with her.
Okay,
On
can
a
I
different
pick the topic then?
Yeah, you can pick up the topic.
Let me know.
Now you can prepare for it.
I'm gonna fit the topic. When is she coming in again then?
Next Tuesday.
All right then, I'm gonna pick the topic. All right, give me some time to meditate on this one because I've got to make it be interesting.
Yeah, the topic. Yeah.
Pardon?
You give us a topic in time so we can prepare for it.
Don't just sprunk on me.
Yeah. All right then. What's your profession again? What do you do? All of them.
I'm trauma-informed consultant. So basically, look into simple issues, single incident trauma, multiple incident trauma.
Okay, so you're a trauma specialist then?
Yes, actually, yeah.
Right.
Like you can call it trauma therapist, trauma specialist, trauma consultant, trauma-informed specialist. So, because everybody, like if you're studying completely into complex trauma, then you can call any of it to yourself.
Where do we call though?
Like on my phone number.
Well, we don't have your phone number though.
Oh, 07375 455 394.
Okay. 394. So that's what 07375. What's the rest?
4.
Yeah, four what?
07375
Yeah.
455 394.
I'm not sure what that middle number is. So that's 07375 495
No, 455.
455.
Yeah.
All right. Just make sure we got the number right, yeah? Right. That's 07375 455 394.
Yeah, 394. Yeah.
Right, that's cool. So ladies and man them, you might not know, say there's some help there, but there's some help there. Our office is open from 9 to 5, not on Sundays. I don't think so. Or are you? Or is it 24 hours a day? How do you operate?
Actually, I have clients all over. So in India, in Canada, in US, and Australia, here. So I work like whenever they say they are available and they need sessions. So it's like I work all the time.
Okay, all right then. Thank you for that. That's all good. Right, Purvi. It's all yours.
Yes.
It's all yours, my dear.
Thank you for tuning in today to Bless Radio 1 and Unify platform. And we thank to Ashwini to join us today and giving us such an informative session. So do tune in next week to listen to us.
Part
See
2.
what topic does Bless give us.
I would like to talk about women with low self-esteem.
Okay.
That's a nice
Okay.
thing. We're going to talk about with women with low self-esteem
Yeah.
or lack of
we will.
confidence,
Yeah.
in themselves.
Yeah.
That's what we want to talk about next week.
Oh.
Yeah, that lines with Unity 5 mission, huh?
No, it
And
lines
which,
it lines with all women,
yes.
yeah. Because not all
Okay.
women, some of them are on top of things, but for what people been going through, I think some of them need to be lifted up a bit,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know. Okay, my
Yeah.
dear.
Okay. Thank
People
you so
with
much. Thanks for having me. Thanks for the opportunity.
all right, then
Thank
cool.
you.
All right,
Bye bye.
all right, bless.
Bye.
Thank you.
All right,
Bye, Purvi. Thanks, darling. Bye. God bless.
all right. So people, next week we're talking about people with low self-esteem or lack of confidence, not just man them, but just and women as well. All right. Bless.
Yeah.
Okay.